right, so let's check in with Lucas Tomlinson. He's live in Riyadh in Saudi Arabia with more on the president's historic trip. Hey, Lucas.
Well, good morning, Ainsley, from Riyadh, where President Trump has arrived just in the last few hours. We're seeing these historic images from the Saudi royal court. President Trump meeting dignitaries alongside Mohammed bin Salman. And can't help but just to compare this to former President Joe Biden's visit to the region back in 2022. You can see that the Crown Prince is not only alongside President Trump, he greeted him right off Air Force One. Again, that's very different from when Biden visited here just a few years ago. Biden did the historic fist bump. That was not at the airport. And there's no question President Trump arrives here with some headwinds. Idan Alexander, the last living American hostage freed from Gaza, a deal with China, a stock market rally, Steve Witkoff meeting with Iranian officials in neighboring Oman, making progress on the nuclear deal. It is notable that the Iranian foreign minister actually came here to Saudi Arabia over the weekend. A few years ago, there was a little bit of a rapprochement with Saudi Arabia and Iran, brokered by the Chinese. And people are wondering why President Trump has made this his first stop. This is an important relationship. Saudi Arabia is about the size of Western Europe. It's a top 20 economy. If the United States isn't here, officials say the Chinese will be here. That's why President Trump is here. That's why he's greeting all these dignitaries. And the pomp and circumstance has been incredible. There was F-15 fighter escort from the Saudi Air Force for Air Force One. Again, Mohammed bin Salman, the Crown Prince, greeted President Trump off the aircraft on the ramp. And you've seen all the Trump officials are here, too. There's going to be major investments announced, over $1 trillion in investments from all three countries, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the United Arab Emirates. And keep in mind, guys, when President Trump first returned to the White House in January, who was his first call to? Which foreign leader? It was to Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. Again, just talking about the importance of this relationship, why it's important that President Trump arrived here on his first official overseas visit here to Saudi Arabia, just like he did during his first term. And there could be other meetings as well. There's a lot happening, of course, in the region, not just in Gaza, but in Syria. There's a new Sunni leader in Syria, and there's a lot of calls from former intelligence officials who say the United States should relax sanctions on Syria. Why? To keep Iran out of the country. For years under the Assad regime, Iran used Syria as a forward operating base. So this is going to be very busy. Now back here live to the Saudi royal court, you see President Trump meeting all the dignitaries, Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, here the de facto ruler of the country, meeting, standing alongside the president, taking time, these historic images. There's no question that the United States and the White House want to show Saudi Arabia the importance of this relationship. Remember Brett Baer's interview with the Crown Prince? We said, how close are you to normalizing relations with Israel? He said, we get closer every day. Of course, as Brian mentioned, that was before the October 7th massacre, but there's no question President Trump is here to be a leader in the world, but also to elevate the Saudi Crown Prince and Saudi Arabia and talk about the importance of this important relationship, guys.
So, Lucas, the big story after 9/11, which you know intimately well, it's part of you have the military background, was if you're ever going to get terror out of the Middle East, it's got to start with the Wahhabism that's being taught in schools in Saudi Arabia. What type of progress has been made?
Brian, it's been interesting on the ground the last few days here in Riyadh. Admittedly, I came here not expecting to look many women in the eye, to speak to many of them. Instead, what I've been told here in just engaging conversation, things have changed a lot in the last 5 years. Some of the women have no problem speaking with you, being professional, courteous. Not all of them wear the full abaya, full covering with just their eyes showing. A little more, people more Western look is being adopted here. Last night, strolling around the streets of Riyadh, the coffee shops were open. Of course, no alcohol served here in Saudi Arabia. The coffee shops, bakeries open, men and women sitting together. I spoke to a worker at the hotel who said 5 years ago, he's from Kenya, he said he would only go to work, go home, eat, sleep, and come back. Now he says he's free to walk around the streets of Riyadh, to talk to people. There's no question there's been a cultural opening, if you will, more Western. We've seen that with Saudi Arabia getting involved in the sports, not only the soccer, the football programs here in Saudi Arabia, but of course the Live Golf Tour. Brian, as you were just reporting from Live Doral in Miami, Trump Doral in Miami, Saudi Arabia wants to be a player on the world stage. Mohammed bin Salman, the Crown Prince, wants to be a player. They're investing over $600 billion into the United States. They're investing billions of dollars into the U.S. This morning, I bumped into a McKinsey consultant from France who said that one of the reasons they're there to help Saudi Arabia build. We saw it in Brett Baer's reporting last night all over Riyadh, just the hundreds of billions of dollars that has gone into building up the economy here, making it more Western, being open to the West. And that's why President Trump is here, and his team is to solidify that, because if the United States isn't here, others will be. The Chinese, the Russians, and Ainsley, you mentioned Saudi Arabia's nuclear program. That's a sore subject with the Iranians, because the Saudis have threatened that if Iran is allowed to build nuclear reactors, so will they. But it does look like Saudi's moving forward those nuclear reactors, and the Crown Prince is going to want U.S. help and U.S. businesses to do that. Of course, the United States is a leader in nuclear power and nuclear energy.
Could there be a compromise when it comes to nuclear power? Could they allow the enrichment, the United States, under our supervision, and what would that look like?
It's certainly a possibility, Ainsley, and even Iran has dangled that out to the Trump administration and the Western companies, that if they do have the right to enrich. Now, granted, that is not the Trump policy right that we heard from Senator Cotton. We've heard from top Trump officials they don't have the right to enrich. But however, if that enrichment could take place outside the country, which is what happens with many other nuclear powers, perhaps there's room to negotiate there with Iran to be able to build nuclear reactors, bring in that enriched uranium, don't spin those tubes there in Iran, and perhaps the same thing here in Saudi Arabia. While it's an oil-rich country, produces 17% of the world's oil, no question they're looking for alternative energy. Why? To power this AI, the artificial intelligence revolution, guys.
Right, and that's why Google's there building a major data center, and that's why it's an opportunity for American companies to invest there, and that's why it's important they remain an ally.
Great job, Lucas. All that Naval Academy experience right there definitely coming to play this morning. Thanks, brother.
Lucas, really quickly, can I ask you one more thing?
You bet.
This delegation, we're seeing people shaking hands with the president, a lot of individuals. Are they all leaders? Are they, some look like they're more Americanized?
Yes, these are political and business leaders. It's really, if you will, all the top brass in Saudi Arabia, Ainsley. The who's who of Saudi Arabia is here in Riyadh. And again, the capital of Saudi Arabia, there's no question that this is the highest level of both military and diplomatic honors that the Crown Prince, there you see a woman right there, not with full abaya, just a little example of some of the loosening of restrictions here in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia.
Wow. So, Lucas, well, hang in with us. We're going to bring in Hudson Institute Senior Fellow, National Security Analyst Rebecca Heinrichs. Rebecca, a lot is expected of this trip, but by the president picking it first, it means a lot to Saudi Arabia, doesn't it?
Well, it's massive if you contrast it, as Lucas was saying, to the previous administration, which really started its term insulting the Saudis, bringing up, as you brought up, Brian, the human rights violations. And it really had a chilly effect on U.S., Saudi, and Gulf relations throughout the entire term of the Biden administration. So now the Trump administration is coming in and saying, look, we have some serious overlapping interests. Let's focus on those. We care about human rights, but if you really do want to see improvements in human rights across the world, that's a situation in which the United States is the strongest power, which means we got to box out the Chinese. We got to box out where the Chinese are coming into these Gulf states. And so first and foremost, you have to have the United States have this close partnership with the Saudis and the Emiratis in particular.
Right. Just a note that with our delegation much smaller, and they just greeted MBS, and there's Susie Wiles having some quality time with MBS.
Real quickly, though, Rebecca, this is important because Iran wants to unite the Muslim world, the Arab world, and our relationship with the Saudis could stop that, right?
Oh, totally. I mean, you want to have the United States, and this is why the Abraham Accords were so successful during the first Trump administration, is because President Trump was clear, we stand with Israel, we're not going to compromise on that. But here, look, we can collaborate to counter Iranian hegemony, to counter terrorism throughout the Middle East. And we can do that collaboration with you, Saudi Arabia, with you, United Arab Emirates. And remember, it was the United States with the Saudis and the Emiratis that took care of the Houthis during the first Trump administration. All of that really was set back during the Biden administration whenever the United States didn't have such a close relationship with the Saudis.
you were pointing out, Ainsley?
Yeah,
who
we
that
were
was?
trying to. We
Jeff
thought
Bezos?
it was Jeff Bezos from the back, but when he turned around, I don't think so. I'm not
Oh, there's
sure.
David Sachs.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it looks
Maybe
like
it was.
the businessmen and women who made the trip are also being introduced.
And Rebecca, talk about that, because Elon's there, Mark Zuckerberg's there. I know that Saudi Arabia wants access to U.S. technologies to advance their AI, their semiconductors for tech, and that is a way that President Trump could ice out China, correct?
Oh, yeah. You want to ice out the Chinese, and you want the United States to be the preeminent power. So you have to look to see where are the advantages of your partners. They're going to be working on this kind of technology. They want to lead on it. They want to be a leading participant. And so you want to kind of hug them close. You want to know what they're working on. You want United States to benefit from it, to leverage their advances. And so the closer we can work with them and find mutual interests, the better it's going to be. Again, during the Biden administration, a lot of these countries did look to China and to Russia. And it's an axis. It's the Chinese, the Russians, the Iranians, and the North Koreans. They're all looking to box us out. Right. So to the extent we can pull these countries into orbit, our orbit, the better.
Rebecca, what do you think? What do you think the Iranians are up to? Multiple visits to Saudi Arabia prior to the U.S. arriving. We're having a fourth round of talks with Iran. Many people, I don't know anybody who believes that Iran is actually going to dismantle their nuclear program. Why are they running to Saudi Arabia, their arch enemy, before this visit? What do you think's going on?
Well, they're looking for deals. I mean, this region, again, this is a deal-making region, and I think the Iranians probably want the Saudis to find areas where the two of them can mutually benefit against the United States, try to triangulate. So you all were talking about the civil nuclear program. The Saudis want to have one as well, again, but the United States does not want, if you do not have a nuclear program, we do not want you to get a nuclear program. So potentially you could have some development outside your country of enrichment. We could bring that in. But the Saudis are not going to get something that the Iranians want that we're going to prohibit to the Iranians. So potentially they're collaborating on that front. Or the Iranians might be trying to get the Saudis to say, we need the United States to recognize a Palestinian state. Yeah. I think that's a deal breaker for the United States. After October 7th, you're not going to have October 7th, that terrible genocidal event against the Israelis, be the event that precipitates something like a breakthrough, like a recognition of a Palestinian state. Yeah. But I would suspect that that's something that the Iranians would want.
And real quickly, Rebecca, you got Elon Musk right there with the Crown Prince and the President of the United States having this thorough conversation. As you can see, he's getting more time than the rest of the business community.
Respected by everybody around the world for his
technology.
Absolutely.
Yeah, just Rebecca, not some knuckleheads in Seattle who want to burn tests.
Exactly.
Yeah, we don't care.
Rebecca, can we get back to what you were talking about when it comes to the Palestinian state? There has to be some middle ground, though, right? Hamas has to go, but it looks like a lot of people in the Arab and Muslim world, the thought of there not being a Palestinian state worries them, and it seems like it's a deal breaker for them.
I think you made an important point, though, earlier, which is that they don't want to take any of the individuals in Gaza, though, that are suffering under, really, it's Hamas's fault that they're suffering, but the Israelis are trying to take out Hamas the best that they can. And I would just suggest, look, there's plenty of Muslim states, more than 24 Muslim states, and any of these Gulf partners can take more of the individuals who are currently residing in Gaza. I mean, and I would say there's only one Jewish state, and so I think that after October 7th, the world has changed, and so that might be something that's important to them. But again, I think President Trump has enormous power and leverage, and he can strike other deals with them that would be important and bring true and lasting peace. And I think, again, it's going to be staying really close with our partners, our allies, the Israelis.
Hey, Rebecca, last question for this portion of our program was we watched the American delegation meet the Crown Prince. How disturbed or how worried are the Israelis that we are not necessarily communicating with them like we were earlier, and that maybe a lot of these talks and the deal with the Houthi rebels was done without their consultation, Eden Alexander negotiations, without them intimately involved? How worried are they?
I think that there is. I think we got to be honest. They're nervous. The first administration's success, again, I would return to what worked the first time. Hold the Israelis very close, even as you extend an open hand to the Gulf partners. that seems to be a little bit different this time, although our ambassador in Israel, Mike Huckabee, has said no, the United States is still ironclad committed to Israel. So there might be just a little bit of disinformation happening in the media, so we kind of have to sit tight and be patient. But I would understand. I would understand why the Israelis would feel a little bit uncomfortable. I would just encourage, our administration and the Bibi Netanyahu administration to make sure that they're standing shoulder to shoulder after all this trip and to demonstrate that there's no light between us.
Yeah, Israel will always be an ally of America. That goes back to biblical times. So it's just, it's a commitment that we, as a country, as a Christian country, have made. But thank you so much.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.